how we need to keep things flowing and concise. So you will have the opportunity at the end to have all the contacts of all the speakers involved. Chris, handing over to you.
Thank you very much, Carrie. So, as Carrie said, I'm Chris Barton, the CEO of British-Portuguese Chamber of Commerce here in Portugal. So, thank you all to those who have logged on today, especially those who've joined us from the British Chambers of Commerce network in the UK. I think there's a few from there. And to those of you who have thoughtfully sent your questions in advance, so that's very helpful. Today, we're blessed with the presence of a panel of experts who are going to give you an overview on this topic of moving to Portugal and living here. It's quite a broad theme, so it may have a different significance for different people. Some of you may have an interest in emigrating here with the whole family, so that implies not only renting or buying a home, transitioning your fiscal status to Portugal perhaps, identifying schools for children, considering healthcare issues, insurance, developing a new network of friends, and possibly even learning the language. So lots of things to consider. Others may consider themselves as digital nomads now, because that's the thing these days. Or you may wish to continue your UK-based business whilst living here in Portugal. Others may wish to retire here, and others may want to come here to get a European nationality as a long-term ambition. Some of you may even be Portuguese people who have previously emigrated to the UK, for example, and wish to return. So lots of different scenarios. Like me, several of today's panelists are expatriates who made the move, who made the decision to come to Portugal many years ago. And I can assure you, we're very happy that we did. And so today, we'd like to share our enthusiasm and experience and encouragement. However, before anybody makes any life-changing decisions, we urge you to seek up-to-date advice from these knowledgeable experts. So here at the Chamber, we often hear horror stories of people who read things on social media, follow the amateur advice, and then suffer the consequences. So don't be a victim, do your research and use our guidance. As we hear in the news, on the news every single day, the world is ever changing. And especially since Brexit, the rules regarding various kinds of visas and residency and pensions and taxations are all constantly evolving. So maybe what was true yesterday may not. Oh, that's someone was coming in there. No, somebody else might want to mute themselves. So what was true yesterday may not be true today and probably won't be true tomorrow. So listen very carefully to all the panelists today. And if their advice resonates with your particular circumstances, contact them directly afterwards, because we will be sharing the contact details at the end. And on last note, we really look forward to the prospect of welcoming many of you to come to Portugal. And don't forget to look at the BPCC website, because you might want to consider applying for membership. Let's hope so. So I'll hand you back to Carrie now. She's going to be our master of ceremonies for today. She'll introduce the speakers, and then later she will moderate the Q&A session. Over to you, Carrie. Enjoy yourselves, everybody.
Thank you very much, Chris. And yeah, thank you for that intro. And also just very briefly introducing myself. I am Carrie Marie Brackley. I am the Algarve representative for the British-Portuguese Chamber of Commerce. I'm also a travel author and freelance copywriter, content creator, and I've lived in Portugal for 31 years. So I can speak very highly of it, and I love it here. So introducing our speakers this afternoon, I am delighted to welcome Pedro Branco, Investment and Relocation Specialist at Portugal Residency Advisors, who will be advising on immigration and residency pathways. We have Sara, Brito, Cardoso and André Gonçalves of Portuguese law firm Teles, who will be advising on all the legal and tax requirements for residency and citizenship aspects. We have Jerry Fagan, Chairman at Decade Development Management, investment and real estate expert with over 2 decades experience in the Algarve market. We're also joined by Luís Miguel Maciel, a mortgage advisor at Portugal Mortgage, international mortgage experts who will be answering all your mortgage questions. We have lifestyle and real estate specialist Soraya Santos of Algarve Luxury Lifestyle. And finally, not least, Ivan Silva, insurance specialist and director at Abigate Insurance. So, as we said, we are on a sort of time constraint, so we're going to go straight into the questions. We're going to put your questions to the specialist. And first up, we will be speaking to Pedro Branco at Portugal Residency Advisors on many questions you've sent in about residency, the visas, the digital nomad visas. So kicking off, we're going to start with residency in Portugal, how to gain residency in Portugal and what the options are as a non-EU citizen. We have questions from Brian Pereira, Alberto Bulhosa, Cristiana Domingos, Leslie Brown and Nelly M. Lazar, among many others. And we do apologise. We will get to each and every one. We'll get you the contacts at the end. So basically, how to gain residency, how to legalise as a foreigner, different visa options, NHR 2.0. Pedro, please take it away.
Okay, so it's first of all, thank you, Carrie and Chris and Elena for hosting this event, and of course for all the participants. As a starting point, is a big question. I could speak here for like 2 hours about all of that, but let me try to be focused and to give time for all of our colleagues. So as a starting point, I used to ask to clients as a starting point, what is their main targets? They want to get residency in Portugal and live in Portugal and relocate to Portugal, or they want to get residency in Portugal and not living in Portugal. Basically, after the 5 years applying for the Portuguese citizenship. So there are two different pathways. Let's start from those people that don't want to relocate, wants to get residency, but wants to keep their lives in their own country. Basically, for those applicants, the route is the investor visa known as the golden visa. So basically, the golden visa is a residency by investment program. By exchanging of an investment in Portugal, they get residency in Portugal, and after 5 years of holding the golden visa, they later can apply for the Portuguese citizenship and afterwards for the Portuguese passports. For the golden visa, there are two main routes of investments. The first one is basically invest in private equity funds, venture capital funds, 500,000 investments, and they qualify for the golden visa. The second option on the golden visa, also popular, is basically investing in arts and culture. Basically, it's a donation. We call it an investment, but the applicant don't see their investment back financially. Basically, they donate 250,000 euros for a foundation that has projects pre-approved by the Portuguese government, by the Ministry of Culture. So basically, these are two main investment routes for the golden visa, for those clients that want to get residency, but don't want to live permanently in Portugal, because the minimum stay requirements on the golden visa is only on average 7 days per year. The minus of the golden visa is the waiting period. So basically, if someone applies today for the golden visa, is expected to have the golden visa issued, let's say, 18 months from now. Okay. So under the current situation of the Portuguese immigration authorities, there is a waiting period of 18 months to get the golden visa approved. Important to mention that these 18 months of waiting periods that is waiting for the golden visa gets approved counts towards the citizenship. So basically, the client don't waste the 18 months, because these 18 months counts for the 5 years they need to have to apply for the citizenship. The other side of the equation, not the investor visa, we have the residency visa, and these immigration visas tailored for those people that want to relocate and live permanently in Portugal. Permanently means at least spending 6 consecutive or 8 non-consecutive months in Portugal. For those people that want to relocate to Portugal, there are plenty of options. I always say to clients that there is always a way to put someone in Portugal. Let's start from the most popular one, D7 visa. D7 visa, passive income visa, retirement visa, is tailored for those people that has passive income abroad. This passive income may come from pension, from rental income, this rental income, one of the questions that if can be done from Portugal, now the rental income has to come from abroad, okay? So pension, rental income, dividends, interest from some financial applications, all these types of passive income, if it is an amount of 870 euros per month, is the equivalent of a minimum salary, that applicant qualify for the D7 visa is entitled to come to Portugal. As a second option, digital nomad visa, you might enter more in details later, Carrie, in these both visas to not extend so much. Second option, digital nomad visa, remote worker visa, those people that works for a company outside of Portugal, they can be freelancers, self-provider agreements, business owner, but they work for a company outside of Portugal. They have a minimum income of 3,480 euros, equivalent to 4 times the minimum salary. They qualify for the remote worker visa, digital nomad visa. The third option, also very popular, those people that's more with entrepreneur spirits, they can open a company if they don't qualify for the D7 visa, don't qualify for the remote worker visa, but wants to move to Portugal, also have an option to open their own business in Portugal and apply for the D2 visa. The plus on this D2 visa, there is no minimum investment requirements, there is no industry requirements, and basically applying for the D2 visa, they also qualify for coming to Portugal. The last option is not so much relevant, but of course, if someone gets a job in Portugal, they can also relocate to Portugal under the regular working visa, okay? So summing up, not extending too much, an equation two sides, those that wants to get residency but don't want to leave golden visa, those that wants to relocate, no need any investment, but need to qualify one of these options that I mentioned.
Okay, thank you very much, Pedro. So we've had a lot of interest in the D7 visa. So we have Harry Shirani, Christopher Vanzuel, John Fernando, and also in the digital nomad visa. So could you tell us specifically the D7, what the requirements, process and timeline is and how it differs to the digital nomad visa?
Okay, great. So the D7 visa, as I mentioned, tailored for those that have passive income, a minimum of 870 euros. So basically, as a starting point, they need to give evidence, documentation that they have to receive this monthly passive income. Which requirements are needed? I'm starting from the requirements, later about the process and the timelines. Starting from the requirements, basically what they need, the main applicant and all the family members that are joining to the application, all of them need an NIF number. NIF number is a fiscal number. Everything in Portugal starts with a fiscal number. Even for having a postpaid mobile phone, they need a fiscal number. So fiscal number, Portuguese bank account. Why they need a Portuguese bank account? Because they should deposit in their Portuguese bank account enough financial means to live in Portugal for 1 year. How much money are you talking about? For the main applicants, roughly 10,000 euros. Per each adult dependent, 50% of that. Per each children, 30% of that. So in total, a family of 4, round number, 21,000 euros should be deposits in the Portuguese bank account prior to the visa application. The other requirement, visa travel insurance, is a must-have because they need to be covered by until they get covered by the public health care, they need to have some insurance, so it's also mandatory. And the last requirement is accommodation, a permanent residence in Portugal. Here, 2 options, I would say, buying a property, secure a lease agreement for 12 months. When all of these requirements are met together with the personal documentation of the applicants, background check, notarized, translated to Portuguese, marriage certificates, birth certificates. When all of these requirements are met, schedule the appointment at the consulate in their home country or the country they have residence for more than 1 year, submit visa application. The consulate in general has between 30 to 60 days to take a decision. After the visa is approved, all the visas, D7, D2, digital nomad visa, are valid for 4 months. Within 4 months, the client comes to Portugal to start a second part of the process, to convert the visa into a residency card, okay? This conversion happens with the appointment at AIMA, is a biometric appointment. They gather the biometric data of the client, fingerprint, picture, signature, and after that, more 90 days, working days to issue the residency card. So basically summing up, this process, these requirements are the same for D7 visa, digital nomad visa. Visa starts at the consulate in their home country, finish in Portugal at AIMA to convert the visa into a residency cards. In terms of how long it takes, because one of the questions is how long it takes till the moment I start, till I get my card in my hands, it might take 1 year because paperwork, let's say 2-3 months, 2 months for the consulate to take a decision, client comes to Portugal, appointment at AIMA in general happens in the end of the 4 months of the visa, plus 90 days to get the residency cards. So clients should be prepared that he should account with 12 months almost to get the card in their hands from the moment they start their immigration process abroad. Okay, so this is the spec of the D7 visa. Digital nomad visa do not change so much. However, digital nomad visa has 2 different routes. One, the short staying, is someone that wants to stay for a few months in Portugal up to 1 year. Okay, the process starts at the consulates, and there is no AIMA because there is not a residency visa. It's only permission to stay up to 1 year. The second option on the digital nomad visa is for those people that wants to really live more than 1 year, basically finish with AIMA appointment exactly as it happens for the D7 visa. But summing up, the requirements are more or less the same in terms of the process, in terms of requirements and the process. Okay, so consulate plus AIMA appointments in Portugal.
Is the residency process for EU citizens different from the non-EU citizens?
It's a good question, Kerry. So we might have most of the people here listening to us are non-UE, but we might have someone that also can have European passport. The process is much more straightforward. There is no visa immigration for this. So basically what the client needs to do as soon they relocate to Portugal is basically to visit the city hall of their residential area and apply for the CRUE, European Residence Certificate. Is an appointment at the city hall, can be booked online or just step by in presence, is given in the same moment, valid for 5 years and costs 15 euros. To get this UE certificate, what this European applicant needs to have in Portugal, again, NF number, okay? Needs to have also a lease agreement or a property deed. If the lease agreement needs to be duly registered at the tax authorities because City Hall is going to check that as well. And depending of the residential area, it might be need a bank account or not with also financial means. In Lisbon, for instance, City Hall don't request bank accounts. It's very easy. In Porto, they request a bank account with financial means to deposit. But basically summing up, as soon as the client has place to stay, an NF number, just step by to the city hall and they get a residency permit for 4 or 5 years for the main applicant and also for the family members if they are all of them European citizens. So no needs visa immigration, and the process can take 1 month, 2 months, depends how fast the client is to come to Portugal, find a place, get an NF number.
And just to round off, we've had quite a few people, including Willem Heinen, Tracy Lewis, asking about the situation of AIMA. What is the role of AIMA on the immigration and relocation process, and what is its current situation?
So hot topic, Kerry, hot topic at the moment. So basically, AIMA was created in October 2022 to replace CEF. Okay, so the main goal of AIMA is basically to regulate the entry of and the duration of staying of foreign nationals, and also to grant and renew the residency permits. Okay, so if CEF was not handling all the thousands of cases pending in Portugal at the moment 2.5 ago, plus the demands of new applicants, AIMA was not prepared to do that. So basically what is happening now is that the consequence of the situation of AIMA, one of them already mentioned, that is the investor visa, golden visa applicants needs to wait 18 months to get their visa approved. This is a consequence of lack of capacity of AIMA to handle all the pending cases in Portugal plus the new applicants. For those people that want to relocate, there are two major impacts. First one, those that are legally in Portugal already and they want to bring their family members, okay, they need to have an appointment at AIMA. And at the moment, it's almost impossible to secure an appointment at AIMA to bring the family members to get a residency card. The second impact that we have seen recently, for those people that want to relocate to Portugal, we have seen some visas, immigration visas, coming without an appointment, because in the past and in general, when the visa is approved at the consulates, the plus was that the consulate schedule straight away the appointments at AIMA. So when the client relocates to Portugal, he knows exactly when, where, and what time will be the biometric appointment. Recently, we have seen visas coming without an appointment. What does it mean? The client needs to come and needs to find a way to get an appointment, or waiting for AIMA opening appointments, or in the ultimate situation is basically what in fact we are doing for other kinds. I believe that our colleagues from TELS law firm are doing the same, is to open a lawsuit, is basically administrative action to the court to notify AIMA to release an appointment. This process is additional cost for the client, so it's not good. And second, this process in the beginning, it looks like it was effective because could be a response in a few weeks. Now there is only one court in charge of these cases. There are thousands of cases in courts due to a situation. So at the moment, even through a lawsuit, it's important to secure when, if you get an answer from AIMA, and where with that appointment. So in the end, for someone looking to relocate, we always keep fingers crossed for the visa comes with an appointment already scheduled, because if not, the clients face another challenge to get that appointment, and it could mean additional costs for the clients to prepare this lawsuit, because it's to be done in a proper way. It takes time to prepare lawsuits, and we need to give the full backgrounds of the client to basically to build a case for the courts to move forward to the process to AIMA, and AIMA to prioritize this application versus the other ones, because there are thousands of applications in this situation.
Sure, thank you ever so much for that. We've had lots of questions, and I know it's not an easy task to fit them all into such a small time slot. So we will be giving out Pedro's contacts at the end, as all our speakers also. Thank you very much for that very useful insight. And now we're going to be moving over to Sara Brito Cardoso and André Gonçalves of the Portuguese law firm TELS, who will be talking about legal and tax requirements for residency and citizenship. So lots of interest in the new foreign tax regime in Portugal. And also, if you already have Portuguese residency and the NHR, can you apply for the new scheme? So Sara and André, if you could please introduce us to the new tax regime and tell us all about it. I think you may be muted.
André, I think you are speaking about on mute.
Mute. Sorry for this.
Yeah.
Thank you for this opportunity. Very honored to be here with you. As mentioned, TELS is a full-service law firm. I work with tax subjects together with Sara, and also coordinate our global mobility team. Regarding this new NHR regime, just entering force in 2024 with a transitory regime, 2025 in full force and fully regulated. It's a very, very good regime because it's quite simple to understand. Basically, there's no taxation on foreign source income, with exception to pensions and social schemes, and income paid by offshore tax haven jurisdictions. All the other income, if paid by foreign entities, will be tax exempt in Portugal. Regarding income generated in Portugal, notably professional income, salary, independent activity, workers, it's a 20% fixed rate on the income. That's the good news. The bad news is that you need to qualify for the regime. Main goal of this regime is to attract high qualified workers to Portugal. So the old NHR, he was not interested in if you were a high qualified worker or not. Everyone could apply. This regime has focused on attracting to Portugal high qualified workers. Why? Because our government understands that if we attract high qualified workers to Portugal, we will attract foreign investment, foreign companies investing in Portugal, and this obviously will have significant good impacts on our economy. Main question is how to qualify as high qualified worker. So we were very concerned prior to this regulation, because if the government was very demanding on high qualified workers, notably if they say that only doctors or university professors would qualify for high qualified workers, this would be a very tight entering door, and this regime would not be attractive to almost anybody. Fortunately, the law coming in force is very, very flexible on how to qualify a high qualified worker for NHR purpose. I will give you an example. If you are a board member of a Portuguese startup, you qualify as a high qualified worker. So this needs to be checked case by case in order to assure that you comply with this requirement, and then you can benefit from this regime. We have our experience dealing with this, and we can help, and we will share with you a resume presentation where we specify what are the main high qualified professions in Portugal, and I think this will be useful for everybody. I would like to highlight one thing, and trying to be resumed and although as informative as I can. Beneficiaries of the old NHR cannot benefit from this one. So once you had the past one, you are no longer entitled to benefit from this one, even if you stay 5 years abroad and then you return to Portugal. This regime is only for new taxpayers that never were tax residents in Portugal in the past 5 years and never had benefit from the old NHR and one regime that was enforced in 2015 or 6, that is for the old immigrants that returned to Portugal with less application than the old NHR. So, resuming, it's a very efficient regime because it's very simple. 20% on salary in Portugal, exemption on foreign sources income. You need to qualify to enter. So you need to enter the door to be able to qualify. NHR, old NHR applicants from this one.
Thank you very much for clarifying that. So the next question we have has to do with pension income and social security benefits. So what tax does a retired person pay in Portugal? How is retirement income from a city pension tax? And on a UK state pension, private pension and attendance allowance and PIP, how would the payments change if moving to Portugal? So how do retirement taxes, retirement income tax work in Portugal?
Sara, I will allow Sara to answer, but I remind again that this regime is the main thing is to attract high qualified workers. And as I mentioned, pension income does not qualify. So pensionists do not qualify as high qualified workers. In fact, they have done their job and now they are enjoying the outcome of their work. So unfortunately, they do not qualify under the pension income, and pension income does not qualify for NHR 2.0 criteria. But Sara, please.
Yeah, it's quite simple, following up on what André was saying. So once you become a tax resident of Portugal under the new regime, under the regular regime, whatever you want to call it, you become subject to tax on a worldwide income basis, which means you have to report and are subject to tax in Portugal, on your worldwide income, regardless of where it's kept, regardless of it being remitted to Portugal or not. You have to report it annually. If you benefit from any special tax regime, then you may have an exemption, but you also have to report it. As far as pension income goes, it's taxed in Portugal the same as employment income and services income, meaning the progressive rates up to more or less 50% apply, even if foreign sourced. The fact that the income is then foreign source may result in one of two tax credit methods. Either the state of source has a taxing right, according to the double tax treaty, which happens sometimes in the case of the UK, depending on the pension that is paid, and Portugal has to give a credit for the taxes paid in the UK, and you will only pay the difference in Portugal, assuming there's a difference, of course. Or it goes the other way around. Portugal taxes you up front, and the UK then has to give you a credit for the taxes paid in Portugal. In any case, you won't be doubly taxed, but always have in mind that the taxes that you suffer in the UK may not be your final tax burden, because you will always need to report and be subject to tax in Portugal as well. And as André was mentioning, I'm sorry, Carrie, there are no benefits. Even if you benefit from this new regime, the tax treatment of pension income will always follow these rules.
Okay. So I hope that's clarified. As we mentioned, there will be contacts at the end of this. So any other questions for Sara and André, they can go straight to their office. So now, will a foreigner be taxed as a resident on trust income, and are US citizens double taxed if they live in Portugal?
On the new NHR regime, as I told, we have the entering door, but then it's quite easy to understand. Foreign source income, except from pensions and offshore tax havens source income, it's full exempt. So payments made by trusts are tax exempt in Portugal. Relating to the double tax treaty with the USA, it's a great question, because USA is the few countries in the world that do that tax based on citizenship and tax residence. Portugal, for example, only taxes based on my tax residence. I as a Portuguese pay taxes in Portugal because I live in Portugal and I'm tax resident in Portugal. If I move to Spain or to UK, I will no longer be paying taxes in Portugal. I will pay taxes in Spain, where I'm tax residents. The United States is different, because if you are US residents, you pay taxes despite you are tax residents in another country. What happens in Portugal is that tax paid in Portugal, because you are tax resident in Portugal, can be offset against tax due in the USA. For example, if you have a real estate income in Portugal and you pay 28%, and you are called to include this income in your US tax return, you will mention to the USA federal tax authorities that you paid 28% in Portugal, and they will balance, they will offset this payment against the tax payment in the USA. So you have double taxation, because you are taxed in both jurisdictions, in the USA due to citizenship, and in Portugal due by tax residence, but the USA will allow you to offset, to compensate in the US the taxes that you already paid in Portugal.
Okay, thank you. Now we have an interesting question here. What to do after 10 years of being an NHR? So what happens after the 10-year period?
You become a normal tax resident. You become a normal tax resident. We have been dealing with this for the past 3-4 years. A lot of clients that ended the NHR regime, and we have multiple solutions. So we have clients that move from Portugal and choose different countries with good tax treaties for new tax residents. For example, we have Italy. UK just ended their non-dom regime. We have Uruguay, we have Malta. So we have clients moving around the world trying to chase good tax regimes. We have other clients that structure their assets, their wealth, in order to reduce taxations in Portugal. For example, the life insurance, the unit link, are that I believe we can speak later on, are a very efficient tool to reduce taxation after you end the NHR. So multiple solutions depending on each case or which family is willing to do to reduce that taxations. But the main question is, once it ended, you will start being taxed as a regular Portuguese tax residents.
Thank you. And now to round off this segment, are there any Portuguese-based employee of record companies, and can a highly skilled professional with an established work history qualify for a D3 visa without a university degree?
There are Portuguese-based employees of record companies. There are. We have clients that use them in the past. So, and Pedro will for sure is capable of answering to the D3 question. But in my opinion, it is not required for you to have a university degree. But obviously, you need to, because it's not mandatory under the law, but you need to prove that you are a skilled professional. Obviously, having a degree will help. If you don't have a degree, you will have to have, for example, a good resume. So you need to have, for example, the profession that you will be rendering needs to be highly paid or higher paid. So you need to have documentation and justifications to make sure that you qualify as high skilled professional. But it's possible because it is not mandatory to have the university degree. Obviously, it helps because it will avoid us to join more documents into the process. I don't know, Pedro, we can be interactive if you agree with me.
Yes, so but well, in fact, we don't have so much experience with D3 visa with these clients in other routes, but the D3 visa, in fact, is not one of that we work the most. But just to complement what André said, yes, there is a minimum requirement for a monthly income that the client needs to meet to could apply for the D3 visa, and there are some requirements in terms of experience. I don't have details with me to could share, but if someone wants to get further information, of course we can provide them more detailed information. But the D3 visa is not the most popular route because in the end there is some monthly income requirements that needs to be met. So it's not that popular that a normal working visa. There is no minimum requirements.
Thank you. Thank you so much also, André and Sara. Your contacts will be made available. So if anybody would like to contact André and Sara directly, we will make sure that you get their contact details at the end of this webinar.
And Carrie, as I mentioned, as I mentioned, and I'm glad to share with you our NHR 2.0 presentation. I believe it can be very useful. Okay.
Fabulous. Thank you so much. So if anybody would like that, just drop us an email or contact André and Sara directly, and they have a fantastic presentation to help clarify any further doubts on the NHR. So we're now going to go to Jerry Fagan, Chairman at Decade Development Management, Investment and Real Estate Expert, who has over 2 decades experience in the Algarve market. Before we jump into the questions, Jerry is going to give us a quick presentation of his work in the Algarve. Welcome, Jerry, and you need to unmute.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me today. And among this esteemed bunch of experts here, you'll probably notice that I'm actually Irish. I've been coming to the Algarve for 50 years. coming to Portugal, and I've lived in the Algarve for the last 25 years and raised our 2 kids here through the education system. So I have a first-hand experience of moving to Portugal and living in the Algarve, and I have to say that I really love it. One of the important things before we go through the little presentation is to say that the 2 speakers that came before us, it's very important that the whole residency situation and taxation situation is very much clarified before you decide to make a move. And that should be one of the first things that you should do before considering actually the business that I am in, which is the property business. And I'll sell anybody real estate at any time, provided I believe in it and provided I believe that it's sustainable and will work well. But I think you must have the experts in their field advise you before you take that big step. It's a big investment and it's something that deserves to be researched properly and looked after properly. So, okay, so let's talk about and I'm going to focus a little bit on the Algarve. Over the last 25 years, we have developed over 2,500 properties, mainly in the Algarve. We did a number. We had a number of properties in a joint venture up in the northern Royal Abydos. We did some things in Porto. Last May, we just finished and sold out 300 units in Lisboa itself, in Alta Lisboa, and today we are focusing mainly on the area that we know and love very well, which is the Western Algarve. And if we can just put up the slide here about the remarkable growth. If you look here at the Algarve real estate market, there's good news and bad news here, because you can see the good news is that from an investor point of view, prices are increasing, and there's been a 13.8% rise in property prices in 2024 as an example. But I suppose the growth there was only surpassed the national average, but also it outperformed Lisbon and Porto. But that's not to say that it's not still remarkably good investment because the prices are going up. In fact, the Algarve generally lagged behind Lisbon and Porto for a number of years, and now it's starting to come back, rightfully back to where it should be. So in the Western Algarve, which is the place that we focus on most, we find that that area is attracts an awful lot of people with what I would call discrete wealth. They want to get on with their lives. They're very much more, and we are very much more promoting the more sort of holistic type of living, which is, ensuring that there's connections with health, connections with education, and generally, to try and get people to get the work and life balance correct. And I have to say that over the last number of years, having focused on that, that's worked well for us. So just to say that, again, by comparison to other areas, the Algarve is still a very, very interesting and successful place to have an investment. But our view is that if you're coming to live in Portugal and in the Algarve, is what you should do is concentrate more on that holistic style of living. You should have construction that's sustainable. You should have all the usual green things that everybody talks about and so forth and so on. But in reality, that's what you should aim for. You should aim at trying to reduce ongoing costs, and that includes water, electricity, and so forth and so on. So it's not just buying a nice luxury property or apartment. It's quite a bit more than that, and that's what we try to focus on. And then let's look at the next slide and just the success factors. So if you look at it, of course, there's very, very strong tourist demand, and that's driven in a number of ways. It's there isn't a season here because with golf courses, 72 golf courses along 170 kilometers of coast, there's a great demand from golfers for holidays, and they're generally outside of what is the normal holiday season. So you get occupation in sort of, if you start at the start of the year, mid-January, February, March, April into May, and then June, July, August is the and a bit of September tends to be the season for the holiday makers generally. I mean, then you go back into the golf season again because the weather is generally very bad in Europe and elsewhere. So you get a traction then from the golfers. So you can have a very complete season here. And, if you're talking about investment and yield and getting a return, the yield can go anywhere between sort of 5 to 8%. Depending on location and depending on exactly what you purchase and buy. Of course, property is still very affordable, despite what I said earlier. You sort of cut your throat when you say that in a way that the property prices are increasing by 13 some odd %, but it's still very affordable property by any standard, by any country standard. Easy accessibility is a major factor, and of course. The infrastructure here, including the internet and everything else, is just, it makes life so much easier. And infrastructure as well in terms of in terms of health and in terms of education and so on. That's all on your doorstep here. Right along the Algarve, there's international schools. Right along the Algarve, there's international hospitals. Right along the Algarve, you have the sea. You have golf courses, you have a great deal of leisure. So all of that accessibility, and they're all accessible to all ages and so on. And people that are retiring can easily occupy their kids and so forth and so on, grandkids and all of that. So they're the success factors. Next slide shows it's a bit insignificant in a sense because it shows the performance by municipalities in terms of, what the values increased by. I mean, if you look at Villarreal de San Antonio, I mean, that's an adjustment because Villarreal de San Antonio is actually a very beautiful place, but it's only recently come on the map in terms of property, and therefore you're seeing a much greater increase in selling prices there. Where I live in Lagos, they're up by 18.6. That's been driven quite a bit by it's not a new market, but it emerged in the last couple of years, which is the US market. There's quite an incredible increase in the number of US citizens initially coming to buy maybe in mom and pop groups where they put an investment together of maybe 10 people, bought a number of apartments, got some form of a rental guarantee, and then when they came to have their holidays, said, you know what, this is a great country, and we don't know what's happening back in our own country. There's a lot of things happening, a lot of fireworks happening in terms of a new government and new president and so forth and so on. And some people, quite honestly, want to live in a more relaxed state. They want to have a situation where they know what they're doing and they know what they're coming to. It's a very peaceful place. The whole of Portugal, again, very accessible and so on. So all of those things, if you like, add to the performance and help drive it. Just about our own company, you see here in the background, Reserva de Luz. We could have the next slide. We're involved in a couple of live projects. As I mentioned at the start, we've developed over 2,500 properties. About 1,500 in round numbers were in the Algarve. largely around Lagos and Luge and around that Port of the Mosh and those areas in and around there. We've a couple of current projects. This Reserve of the Luge project these are amazing plots. They're probably the last of its kind along the Algarve because it's an old planning permission, and they're all south-facing plots, sloping, around about 2,000 square meters each, with building capacity of 400 square meters, and basement as well. If you want the cost of a basement, sometimes I feel I have to advise people practically that what do you want the basement for? Sun is shining all the time. Do you want to drive your car into the basement when you can have it outside? It's a different thing, and I think sometimes people want everything, and sometimes they want things that they shouldn't want. So that's where an experienced developer comes in and says this is what you should do. And I know from my own personal experience and having had the benefit, if you like, of having the health system here. I had 2 very serious spinal operations in the last 18 months, and was at one stage I was paralyzed for 3 or 4 months. But thankfully the health system got me going here. But what that also taught me is that when you come here at a particular age, whether you're 45 or 55 or 65, you have to start thinking there's only one thing that's going to happen, and that's every year you get older. So you're going to have to look at the property that you're living in. Has it got too many stairs? Do we require a lift? All of these things. And this is what we advise in terms of the holistic living. Also, what we try and advise is you shouldn't have big lavish things that cost a lot of money, because as you heard earlier speakers, if you have a pension, your pension is limit. Costs can be limitless. So in terms of electricity, garden, this, that, and the other. So you really have to put some detailed thinking into design and what exactly you're getting yourself into, and know that as your pension stays, or as your income stays at a particular level, that costs go up all the time. So you have to control those after costs. So things like solar energy and so on are absolutely vital. Heat pumps and all of that. When I came here 25 years ago, electricity was half the price it was in Ireland, and everything was electric. Oh my God, so you just put everything electric, and then it ends up that the international markets start increasing, and the price of everything goes up because the energy costs go up. And I think everybody's suffered with that in the UK as well. So this is a very interesting project. We have if we could turn to the next slide, we've a turnkey. We can turnkey it with you, help you to look after it. We have an architect, we have a project manager, and a construction company that we know and has been with us for 25 years, and they can help you, or we can be the developer ourselves. So we take the pain out of it for that particular side. And the other, we're just about to start this Nova Terraces. We have our planning permission now. This is in the centre of Lagos. This is something, if you like, that I've been wanting to do for a long time. I love the old town of Lagos. We bought this site about a year ago, and we've given it very special attention based on what I feel the requirements of people living in the town is, and we've designed it that it can work very well in terms of both an office and an apartment. So you can get that living balance and this holistic balance together. And after this, you'll have our details. We have other stock coming on board in the not too distant future, and some very interesting things going to happen before the end of the year, which we'll be announcing in due course. So that's a little bit about the market and DDM. and any questions you have, you can always contact directly, because there's a lot of speakers to come with important messages that you need to know about. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Jerry. And just a couple of questions that we do actually have. But yes, we do have a time issue, so I'll try and keep them as short as possible. So we have a question regarding investment opportunities in Portugal and the Algarve versus Lisbon as an investment destination, and are golden visas for property investment still available outside of major cities? So what would you consider investment hotspots, and what would you consider an investment opportunity?
God. Yeah, well, what would the first question is, what are you investing in? Are you investing for investment's sake, or you're investing in your future, or your retirement and so on? So there are two different types of investments in my mind. I think generally speaking, some of the hotspots, particularly in the Algarve, definitely Lagos is a very hot spot at the moment. There's no question about that. I think also you'll see Vilamora coming up quite a bit now. There's quite a bit of new stock there, and I think that competing new stock will help, and it will having such an amount of square meters in construction there, with different hedge funds operating there. I think you're going to see a big market created there, and the infrastructure and so on in Vilamora is fantastic, and it's very good for tourism. But Lagos, I think, is good both for tourism, but also for what I would call your personal investment. You know, you're investing in yourself, you're investing in your kids, you're investing in your life, and that's certainly where I would recommend. With regard to the golden residence. The golden residence permit, I mean, we came in at the very start of that. In fact, at one stage, we talked, we were part of a committee of the government, and people will hate us for saying that we recommended that the property investment would be 500,000, because we thought if people were really wanted to be interested in living in or being a part, if you like, of the Portuguese situation, that they should bloody well pay for it in terms of the type of investment that they had, and we really thought that was a good scheme. Now, I think the property in itself is not available for the golden residence permit in that way. You have certain funds that operate and invest in properties on behalf of people, and the investment fund itself, by them investing in it, and the guys from the taxation side and so on will know better than me about it. For me, I think that the most important thing is getting that. If it's money or if it's residency, you need to really talk to the experts on that, and there's plenty of them around in this webinar today already spoken, and definitely for me, that would be the first point of call if that's your general interest. And from an investment point of view, as I mentioned, there, depending on where you are, depending on what you want to do, depending on the type of license that you have, whether it's touristic property, whether you've got a license for habitation, for tourists and so on, you can get a yield of anything from 5 to 8%. So that's general, and that would go for Lisbon. It would go for Porto. It would go for certain cities and towns in the Algarve, Faro, Vilamora, definitely. There's a totally different setup and totally different setup if you go to the likes of Valdelobo, Quinta do Lago, and so on. That's a different market. That's a market that's, you know, 0.5% of the world wants to live in Quinta do Lago and Valdelobo and so on, and they get their wishes and they go there. And what I always say is that the Western Algarve is discrete wealth, which means there's indiscreet wealth elsewhere. So from that point of view, that's why we focus on the Western Algarve.
Okay, thank you very much, Jerry. Thank you for joining us. And as we mentioned, there will be contacts made available. So if anybody has any other questions or any wants any more info from Jerry Fagan, then please just drop him a line. We'll be making his contact available. So we are going to be speaking now to Luís Miguel Maciel of mortgage advisor at Portugal Mortgage. International mortgage experts, and we're going to be tackling the topics of mortgages. So we have a good few questions here to put them together briefly so that we can try and stick to the time we have here. If I already have one ongoing mortgage with my bank, can I change my mortgage? What pathways exist for securing a 50% mortgage at 72 with life insurance? And if I am moving to Lisbon and purchasing a house, how much is the down payment, and do they have an age limit on bank mortgage? So, Luís, please, I know you have lots of info to give us, so over to you, Luís.
Thank you, Carrie, and thank you everyone for the time taking to be with us. Considering the questions, well, first of all, let me start by saying that anyone can apply for a mortgage in Portugal, as long as Pedro already said, as a Portuguese taxpayer number, an IF, and has steady incomes. As long as a client has both, he can apply for a mortgage. Okay. In Portugal, all mortgage must be settled until the holders of the client reaches 75 years old. There are a couple of exceptions. There are two banks that will allow you to go until 80, so 5 years more, but will depend on the loan to value ratio, and it will depend on the type and the amount of earnings of the client. So we'll need to go to see it step by step if the client is eligible or not for this situation. On the other side, as you already asked, regarding the ability of change mortgage between banks here in Portugal, it is always possible. If the client has a fixed rate, there will be a penalty of 2%. If the client has a variable rate, the penalty will be 0.5%. The bank that does receive you will support only 0.5%. This will mean if the client has a variable rate, it won't have any fees or charges. Otherwise, he will have charges on this bucket. Okay. Regarding the real estate market, the mortgage market over here, I took the liberty of matching our interest rates with the IFICI in UK, and I found out that the interest rates are almost 50% of the values issued on the UK. As I already said, the maximum term will be 75 years or 80. The standard loan to value is 70%. This will mean that the client will need to make a 30% down payment. As I also said, and it's almost the rule, that the exception is the rule. For almost any rule, there is an exception. So there is the possibility of having only 20% down payment, but it's a one shot only because it's only with one bank. Almost all the banks will require life insurance and the house insurance. On the life insurance, sometimes the client might have it outside of the bank or even don't have it as well. Okay, it will depend on the mortgage applications. One thing that has been on everyone's minds on the last couple of days, it's the tax benefits and the government help on the properties. So if you want under 35 years old, and this will be your main house, don't have any property in Portugal, not own any property in the last 3 years, you'll have benefits in IMT and stamp duty. If the purchase is below 324,000 euros, you will be free. Above it, you'll pay the difference until the max ceiling of 648,000 euros. Okay? Have in mind that this only applies if it is your main house. So if you don't have a temporary residence card or crew, the banks will not consider it as your main house. So you cannot have this benefit. Okay. The other benefit is the help of the government with the down payment. It is only available also if you're under 35 years old. You earn less than 83,000 euros per year gross, and the purchase is below 450,000 euros. 450,000 euros. Okay. There are some cultural differences between both countries. First of all, Portugal doesn't work with a credit score system like in the UK. Okay, so regardless of your score in the UK, every application will be run to the banks the same way here in Portugal. It has benefits and it has its downsides. Benefits: someone who has a not so good credit score in the UK can apply for a mortgage in Portugal. Downsides: anyone who has an excellent credit score in the UK won't have better conditions over here in Portugal. Also, there aren't any more interest-only mortgage here in Portugal. Okay, most of my UK clients ask for this because it is a standard product in the UK. We don't have it over here. So all mortgage need to have capital and interest paid each month. Let me check a look. Always, it is possible to change bank, as I already said, and the exceptions are the rules, as I previously said. So in 5 minutes, what I have, it is what I can explain. But of course, there is an amount of questions, there are amount of issues that can only be run step by step. Once we start seeing the documents of the client, once we start asking what the client has, how does he earn his money, and what kind of property does he want to buy. This will be our main issues. This is why we always schedule a one-to-one online meeting with the clients for understanding how to go ahead with their applications. And that's it.
Okay. Thank you very much. So just to clarify, you can do an online meeting so people can get in touch with you, book their online meetings, give their specifics of what they're looking for, what kind of house, and you can give them a much more tailored and detailed answer.
We always do a 45 minutes online meeting with every client so we can understand the best way to find a solution for them, because there are plenty of those.
Thank you. So we will be making your contact available along with everybody else's, and people will be able to contact you directly with their specific requirements. Thank you ever so much, Luís Maciel. So now we're moving on to the last segment of our webinar. We will be doing addressing lifestyle and also insurance, which ties up very nicely with the life insurance and all the other requirements for the mortgage. So we're now going to go over to Ivan Silva, insurance specialist and director at Abigate Insurance. And Ivan is going to be telling us a little bit about the most the popular or the necessary options for expats in considering moving over to Portugal for foreigners moving, the most common insurances and the necessary ones. So Ivan, please tell us a little bit more about insurance.
Hi, everybody, can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is Ivan. I represent Abigate Insurance in Portugal. Abigate was founded only based on expatriates living abroad. So the company was founded in the UK, just to keep things briefly. We see in those 25 years of experience, we see people coming over from UK, living to Spain, which was classified as our head office. Then we saw opportunities again in Portugal and Cyprus, and our head office is now based in Cyprus. I've seen a lot of people, Pedro, André, Sara, all of you will talk, and at some point insurance will be something to be add on. So Abigate, we work with, we say local companies, but we also are a Lloyd's cover holder. So we are kind of an MGA in Portugal, and we subscribe risk on their behalf. As we see opportunities for business coming, we develop products that will see people that ease the bureaucracy pattern that we all know that Portugal have, and we try to get things moving forward internally. To talk about here, Carrie, about what most people look for. We develop products, the immigration policy and a travel insurance policy, where people could buy this online. We're trying to develop programs that where people and other people can just, as a click, a few buttons, could issue those certificates quickly within minutes. I know it's a blurry field where people are being asked for travel insurance, but then health insurance. Where does that leave the people around? And we say health insurance is something that you should be looking for once you settle, once all the bureaucracy, the NIF, the visas, and the documents are settled, and the client knows the family members, previous conditions. So we say it's very early when we're handling paperwork to decide whether people should have option A or B for health insurance purposes. That's why travel insurance, it works at some point, and the immigration, which will have the legal required mandatory levels, hospitalization and repatriations in case of an emergency. Those products will be adapted to Cyprus, Portugal, and Greece, and Spain. We selected individually with AIMA, which is not easy to get something established in Portugal. That's the only country, as I've been working in all those countries. But we managed to, people that are trying to relocation, get us as much as documents we can, and consulate and VFS website can bring people up to speed and what they need. Obviously, people, when they're moving, whether they are their expensive cars, foreign plates, we can get those policies or those cars issued on the temporary basis with the registration plate, where they're coming from, whether it's a USA, whether it's a UK registered vehicle. While they are looking for navigating in this bureaucracy level, we help them getting that insurance cover that they're looking for while they're changing their life to Portugal. You know, insurance is a very not as complex as a few of you, but it is. And Chris picked up a line very important for me, where social media takes a big role these days, where poor advice is being shared, which we navigate, we never get involved in with. But we try to use both words, which is local companies, you say that, and subscribe business at their own pace with the guidance and knowledge within 25 years. So we are very focused on the UK market. That's our 75% of our clientele, different ages. As Gary was saying, Lagos is a very area booming these days. And we get to see along these years, get to see the postal codes, different postal codes. 3 years ago, it was areas as Tavira, Olhão, Vila Real. These days it's more like Lagos. Vila Moura and the Golden Triangle has been always a part ever. But depending on the lifestyle people are looking for. I know we try to subscribe as much as business and lines of business as we can, but we tend to focus at the personal level. So private insurance are their cause, and when they're moving, it's what actually we are looking to develop. As the demand for us is high at the moment, obviously there is mortgages side of things that we will try to develop some kind of synergies, but that's something I'll discuss later for questions.
You are in mute, Carrie.
Yeah.
You are in mute, Carrie.
Yes, yes, I just hear you now, Terry.
Thank you. Sorry. So I understand you have other commitments today, so you're a very busy man. So we thank you for your time. We'll also be making available your contact details so people can reach out directly. Do you also do online consultations if people are interested in getting in touch with you directly?
Yes, definitely, Carrie. I mean, our office is, we have an extended team here based in the Algarve, small office also in Cascais, but we kind of fast-paced environment. So obviously my team and I will be happy to go through any request. Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ivan. Thank you very much.
Thank
And
you.
now
Thank you, Carrie. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And now we're going to speak to Soraya Santos of Algarve Luxury Lifestyle, who is a lifestyle and real estate specialist in the Algarve. And Sudai is going to be telling us a little bit about what people can expect when they move to the Algarve, what the lifestyle is like, what it's like fitting in as a foreigner, and what's available to us. So one of the questions that we have and that's come up quite a lot is regarding the health aspect of living in Portugal. So Sudaya, you've worked with lots of clients. What do your clients have to say about living in Portugal, about the healthcare, and also there are private and public options. So what's your feedback and what is the outlook that you can give people on, say, healthcare in Portugal?
About healthcare, it's not my major specialty. I'm in real estate. But for what my clients have been saying when they are here and they have to use the public system is that it works very well. They go to the hospital, they are very well taken care of. Everyone tries to help. They speak English, and they are always very thankful for that. If I personally use private. I have insurance and I use private. Sorry, but regarding healthcare, this is it. The feedback I have from my clients when they have a major thing and they have to go to the to the public hospital, they are happy about it.
Because there is good health service available, isn't there, public and private? So
yes,
it is resoundingly positive, I think, the feedback.
Yeah.
We've also, sorry.
Tell me.
We've also had some questions. We've had the questions about the time frames of the bureaucratic processes, how to become legalized, how to take care of the paperwork for finances and for the pathways. But what about real estate? What is the timeline for example, you find a house, you love the house. What happens with the buying process? What is the average timeline to purchase a property?
Well, it depends if you need a mortgage or not. It basically depends how long it will take someone. It will take you to decide if that house is for you or not, and this can take years, or it can take, or if I'm very lucky, we do a visit and we do a sale. But what I advise is for people first, as Jerry was saying, that you actually first of all, check before you come when you can come, when you can actually come and know when you are coming. And then prior to come, you can contact me. And what I'll do is, what I will try to do is, because people ask, oh, where shall I live? Shall I live in Porto? Shall I live in Lisbon? Shall I live in the Algarve? And everywhere is good, everywhere is different. It depends on what you like and the lifestyle you want to have. So to have the best lifestyle for yourself, you need to choose, the best lifestyle is where your home will be, because you will not want to be traveling all the time, I'm guessing, to go to do whatever it is that you like to do the most. So what I do with clients, I do a complimentary call, and then I make questions to them, and they tell me what they like to do or whatever is more important for them. If it's the climate, what type of climate do they like? Do they prefer the rain? Do they prefer the sun? Do they prefer the wind? Imagine they like to windsurf, so maybe they prefer to go to a place where there's wind through the year, or or they like to golf, or they like whatever whatever it is, or if they are coming with children, or if they are retiring. So this is also very personal, and I cannot give a recommendation to fit everyone. So it's very personalized, and this is what I help people to go through, because they think Portugal is all the same. It's a rectangle of 800 kilometers by 200, but everywhere is different. Even the Algarve, it's very different from the center to the west coast, to the south, to the east coast. So again, depending on what you like, the type of community you want it to be inserted in, all of, if you want to be in the countryside, if you want to be walking distance to everything, you cannot have both. and then you have to think. I go through the questions and through what's most important for clients, and then they themselves have to decide what is best for them. Is it the sea view, is to walk to the beach, or is it to be close to a hospital, or is to be close to the children's school? And at the end of the day, it all comes up with the budget. What's their budget to either rent or to buy? One thing I tell my clients when they are looking to rent, because many people decide to rent for 1 year at least, to then buy, to then decide while they're here to decide where then they want to buy. So your question, how long it can take to buy, can take 1 day. We can go for the tomorrow if you like, but but it can take longer, because you will decide it's not, when you are buying, mostly it's not a decision that you take easily. And when you are renting, one thing I say is, don't expect that you are going to find available a property to rent that fits all your criteria. Your dream house will not be available to rent on the budget that you have in mind and on the location that you have in mind. So when you are renting, you have to think, okay, this is something, is not permanent, and you will then take the time to find the best option for you when you want to buy. So this is it, more or less, to give you an idea.
Thank you. So could you also, one of the questions is about the average costs of rents and average cost of life. Just in a general way, are there any areas that may be more affordable, say, if you're inland versus being closer to the coast, or in a big city versus a small village? Does location reflect price?
Yes, of course, mainly. So as everywhere, it's location. So if you are in the center of town, it will be more expensive. If you go a little bit further away, it's less expensive. And the most demand there is for a certain area, of course, the most expensive it will be. This is how the real estate market goes, and most people want to be in the same place. Of course, depending, let's say in the Algarve, there's a lot of demand for central Algarve because it's closer to the airport, etc. But some people prefer to be more on the west or the east coast, because they prefer to be more, let's say, in with a place with less people, or more countryside, or so on. So again, it's cheaper. But by the way, I don't think Portugal is cheap, because it is not. So do your research and let's say, okay, average. Let's say Vila Moura, which is my specialized area. If you want to rent a 2-bedroom per year, you have to think at least for an average apartment, basic, well, not basic, average, with the pool and the garden, and it's like 2,000 euros a month. Can be more, can be less, it depends. So, have these numbers in mind.
And you can advise on all of that. If people get in touch with you, you can give them a more detailed information of the specific areas once they know more or less where they like to be, because it does vary greatly, doesn't it?
Yes, and yes. Yeah. So, they can email me or contact me by WhatsApp on the number that you will give, and I can send questions beforehand. If they would like to have a call, I'll send questions for food for thought, so that they think themselves, themselves. And then we have the call, and then it's much easier, because they have thought already of the questions I will make, and according to their answers, I will suggest listen, according to what you are telling me, the area of Portugal that I believe you would like the most is this one or that one. Of course, you know, I'm from Lisbon, but I live in the Algarve for 30 years. So, you know, for a reason, I really like it. I like the Algarve, so I'm biased. I will always try people to bring people to the Algarve, but you know, some people prefer the big cities, and that's all fine. But according to what they say, I will, you know, suggest the areas that best will suit their needs. Okay.
Okay. And another question, and we've seen today with a few of the questions about retirement and the best ways to retire to the Algarve. We have somebody who would like to know the best places for a retired couple. Now that's, as you said, it's sort of a very broad game area there to play on, because you know, there's so many different places. It depends if you want to be active, if you want to be more relaxed, if you want to be quiet, if you want to be very sociable. So but in general, the Algarve, because that's obviously your area of expertise, is the Algarve still, as we keep seeing, one of the top places to retire in terms of infrastructure and amenities? Is it still a good retirement destination? And also, as an expat or a foreigner of any age looking to relocate, how easy is it to integrate and connect with other people in Portugal?
It will be easy. Before you are here, you know, there's lots of Facebook groups that you can expect of Americans, of expats of all nationalities, if you will find on Facebook. There's a lot of meetup groups, and then you can be general, can be expats in the Algarve group, for instance, meetup, but can be specific if you are into tech, or if you like to go hike, and there's walking groups, or, you know, for instance, there will be golf groups or tennis groups or paddle groups. There's lots of paddle groups. And so, you know, again, really depends on what you like to do. You will find people that you can start connecting with beforehand. And once you are here, again, that's why when I make the questions is to try to guide people into what I believe they would like the most, and again, the sort of community they would like to be closer to when they choose the location where they want to, you know, to live. And once they are here, of course, the Algarve, of course, you have many Portuguese, but you have people from all over the world, and you have people retiring. You have people that sold all their everything in their countries and came to live here, retirees, you know, and you have more and more as the years pass. You have more younger couples with young kids coming here, and then we have lots of international schools spread along the Algarve and Portugal. So this is also an option for younger couples. Ideally, you know, if you can be working to somewhere else but live here, is the both you know, the best of both worlds. But yeah, but in case there was a question also, can you find work here if you only speak English? Yes, it's possible, especially if you will work in a place, let me say Kinderlag, you know, where everyone speaks English. That's the, you know, the national language there is English. So, you know, you can find a job there, or other places that, you know, you can speak only English. Or if you are working for a company that is English, but you are based in here, and then for Lisbon, there's lots of companies that are there, and, you know, they have a base here or something like this. Or if you work online, so this is possible also. Yeah, I don't know if
yes, in terms of a destination, it's still a great destination for people of all ages, whether you're planning to retire, move with a family, or even maybe just start your own chapter, a new chapter. It's a beautiful. I know the Algarve very well also, so I know it's a stunning area. And as you said, language is not an issue. So fitting in language barriers, they're very little.
again, to work, you would have to work for specific companies or areas. And on your daily life in the cities, everyone speaks English, so that will be very easy. One thing that people say, oh, I'm trying to learn Portuguese, and when I speak something in Portuguese, the Portuguese reply to me in English. And this is not to say you don't have a good accent in Portuguese or something. It's to help you. You know, our intention is always to help you and welcome you. Portuguese people are very welcoming in general. So when there is someone like this, they are struggling, we try to help, and then we reply in English. Okay, nothing against your Portuguese accent. So it's very easy. You know, of course, if it's someone older, they may not speak English, but you can get along quite easily, you know, not speaking Portuguese, let's say, unless you go to the far inland parts of the country, you know, in older population, but still in hotels and this kind of stuff, everyone will speak English, so problem. Yeah. So.
And just to round off our webinar today, for anybody, there are lots of you from the questions and the interest in this webinar, looking to move to Portugal, in terms of real estate, what would your advice be? What is the homework people should be doing? What are the first steps to take? What is your advice for somebody thinking of buying in Portugal?
I would say maybe decide their budget first, because this makes a decision, again, between the budget they want to invest in this property, if it's to be their own home, either to rent or to buy. If they are considering a mortgage, then contact the mortgage broker beforehand to check their financial status, let's say, and so that they know what is the price of the property they you know they have to the price that they can go to, you know, and remember the taxes. Don't maybe the lawyers and stuff will say, you know, count with 10% on top of the purchase price, and you'll have some money left after paying all the taxes. But I like to say this to my clients, so you know they have a little money left. It's not 10%, it's less, but count with that. So if you are buying something at 500, count at 5. You have to have 550, and then again, as the Luis from the Maciel from the mortgage brokerage said, the most banks give up to 70%, some will give 80%. So check this before, so you know when you contact the agent, me or whomever, say, listen, I want to buy a house up to this much, because like this, you don't waste your time, you don't waste the agent's time, you are serious, they see you are serious, and you are not still searching and looking and wasting everybody's time. And plus, you may imagine you see a property, and then you are going to ask for the mortgage, while someone else can come in and get that property that you actually liked. So, you know, so best is check your budget. Once you know everything, you know, the bank has said, yes, no problem, we will give you this much. Okay, now start looking. Again, if you want to come here and buy straight away, or buy before you actually relocate, then you have to start doing this beforehand. Your agent will send you properties, you will check, you can do video calls beforehand, and then you can make a visit to actually go see the 2 or 3 that you are most interested on. Because otherwise you can be looking forever. Sometimes I have clients say, I can be in all of the Algarve, I don't mind. You know, can be forever. You can be looking forever. So that question is, oh, how long it can take? It depends on you, but you have to do the homework before to save your own time and our time, which is precious.
Thank you. Thank you, Soraya. And that's where you come in, and you are the girl to reach out to. And we will be making all the contacts available. This is now, our webinar is coming to an end. And we hope it's been very useful. We hope the information's been helpful. Thank you to all our speakers. Thank you to everybody who's been watching us today. Contacts will be made available. And if there's anything else, any other questions, we will direct the many questions that we've had in our chat to the relevant speakers, to the experts who will be getting in touch with you. You can also contact the British-Portuguese Chamber of Commerce directly. So I'd just like to once again thank everybody for this afternoon, and hopefully see you all again soon.